A successful European Ukraine poses an existential threat to the Putin regime. This is why Moscow has spent years directing its information resources to discredit Ukraine and the Ukrainians in the European media. Opposition to EU enlargement, particularly regarding Ukraine's accession, is regularly voiced in European countries. Russia exploits these sentiments to expand its destabilizing influence on European nations and interfere in the domestic politics of EU member states. As a result, support for Ukraine's European integration may become fragmented or disorganized. In this context, elections are a particularly vulnerable period in the informational sphere, characterized by an acceleration of the dynamics of news and media content on socially and politically significant topics. These risks are especially relevant in the coming months due to the elections campaigns in Poland, Romania, and the Czech Republic. Notably, in May 2025, presidential elections will take place in Poland and Romania, while in September, the Czech Republic will hold parliamentary elections. Given this, within the project Ukraine's European integration and elections in the EU countries, informational perspective, the Ukraine Crisis Media Center conducted expert survey by the questionnaire method. More than 115 journalists, academia, political scientists, information security experts from the Czech Republic, Poland, and Romania took part. The survey was conducted from the 10th to the 20th of March 2025. The purpose of this survey is to highlight the expert community's perception of the trends and dynamics of media coverage of the European integration of Ukraine in the media spaces of 3 EU countries, the Czech Republic, Poland, and Romania. The 3 countries were chosen based on the importance of their bilateral relations with Ukraine, especially in areas such as logistics of arms supplies and export of Ukrainian goods. This survey contributes to the understanding of the attention to the issue of Ukraine's European integration in the media space of project countries on the eve of elections. Therefore, respondents were asked to answer these 5 questions. Please evaluate the level of danger that Russian informational interference might pose to the election process and the expression of the people's will. Is the topic of Ukraine's European integration relevant in information discourse of your country as of March 2025? Do you expect the idea of EU enlargement, particularly Ukraine's accession, to be addressed in the campaigns of political actors? Are there manipulative narratives and disinformation connected to the topic of Ukraine's European integration present in traditional media or on social media platforms, Facebook, TikTok, X, etc.? What impact would possible deployment of your country's military contingent on Ukrainian territory after the signing of a peace agreement have on your support for Ukraine's accession to the EU among society of the Czech Republic, Poland, and Romania? Here are the results. The Czech Republic. Almost half of the surveyed experts assessed the threat of informational interference from Russia as high. A similar number of respondents believe that Russian information interference is limited and unlikely to significantly affect the results of the elections. More than half of the experts from the Czech Republic note that the topic of Ukraine's European integration is sporadically present in the media space of their country. 60% of respondents answered that the topic of Ukraine's European integration will be present on the political agenda of the parliamentary elections in the Czech Republic, depending on the events. At the same time, a third of those surveyed believe that the issue will not gain interest from the participants in the race. Almost half the respondents believe that information campaigns against the idea of Ukraine's European integration are situational. At the same time, a quarter of experts see targeted discrediting campaigns. More than 40% of respondents believe that in the event of the Czech contingent being involved in peacekeeping missions, the attitude towards Ukraine's membership in the EU will deteriorate. Experts' opinions were almost evenly divided on the level of potential informational influence of Russian disinformation on the Polish elections. Half of those surveyed considered the probability of the threat to be high, and almost the same number of respondents considered it moderate. As we can see, the largest share of respondents note that the topic of Ukraine's European integration is partially present in the Polish media space, while about 25% believe that this issue may return to the agenda, depending on the course of events. Notably, only 21% of the surveyed experts expect that topics related to Ukraine's European integration will receive significant coverage and attention from the presidential candidates. Experts' assessments were almost equally divided on the question of whether information campaigns against the topic of Ukraine's European integration are coordinated or rather sporadic. Expert opinions are nearly evenly divided. However, a slightly large number of respondents believe that, under the described scenario, Polish attitudes towards Ukraine's European integration will deteriorate. Romania. The vast majority of respondents believe that the level of threat of Russian information interference in the electoral process in Romania remains high. The experts' opinions were evenly divided. However, it is noteworthy that only 2 respondents out of 42 believe that the topic of Ukraine's European integration receives significant coverage in the Romanian media. Similarly, it is worth noting the extremely low level of interest in the topic of Ukraine's European integration among presidential candidates, according to Romanian experts. 60% of respondents believe that information operations against Ukraine's European integration are fragmented and periodic in nature. Experts' opinions are quite polarized on this issue, almost equally divided between different options, from increasing support for Ukraine's European integration to decreasing. Experts who provided a detailed answer, green segment, consider the scenario of the deployment of Romanian units in Ukraine to be extremely unlikely. The survey was organized with the support of the European Union and the International Renaissance Foundation within the framework of the European Renaissance of Ukraine project. Its content is the exclusive responsibility of the authors and does not necessarily reflect the views of the European Union and the International Renaissance Foundation.